So we're pursuing quantum biology. I am Dr. Paul Drouin with Dr. Amit Goswami. And as a medical doctor, and I've practiced for so many years, I recognize that medicine that I learned through the Western philosophy materialistic system has its limit. And this is what you have exposed along this last not only this last segment, but also along the course. And as we have started to teach at the Quantum University in our curriculum this new element of quantum physics, I could see that we have add or the element missing in the healthcare. And one of them, which is very important, is the humanistic aspect, because if we go at the limit of what is a materialistic system, we add to this understanding of human is a machine, and at the end of the day, if it's a machine, we lost the humanity in the healing, and having this back now in our curriculum that we teach to doctors and natural medicine doctor, we are in some way reintroducing the humanistic aspect. And there is many elements to it. First, the number one I would say is the relation, client, healer, or doctor, patient. This notion of entanglement, because the way I was trained when I done my medical university or when I was doing my training or residency, doctors would say, be objective. And try don't be too feel what the mother will say if it's a child. It's like, we were trying to dissociate ourselves from the therapeutic relation, which is it's really the most important, and just try to keep the lab and the report and the objective element. And this idea that in quantum physics, we are entangled and we have this kind of chemistry, and it's also part of the fact that it enhances also the healing process. So I think this is a major contribution. So what you will think about this, about quantum medicine, to have add this element of humanity, this subjectivity in the relation, and acknowledge it.
Yeah, absolutely. The practice that is now prevalent, which is just so disastrous because it does not use one major input, which is how the patient is feeling about the disease that he or she is suffering. So this component can only be brought out by that change in the relationship to subjectivity of both the doctor and the patient. And also, you noted earlier, and I noted earlier about quantum healing. Quantum healing is a process in which if the doctor participates as well as the patient, obviously it works much better. It's like it becomes a collaboration. University professors collaborate with their students, and they have a tangled hierarchical kind of relationship. Absolutely. Where the creativity just increases manyfold. Same thing needs to happen with the doctor and the patient for effecting quantum healing. Quantum healing is time has come, because I think it's just a matter of time when everybody will start acknowledging that when you have a serious disease, immune system disordered disease like cancer, why make the body fight that disease by feeding those absolutely obnoxious chemicals? Mm-hmm. And we are going to realize that the much better procedure is to engage quantum healing.
Yes, and this is another subject I will address.
Yeah, but then again, the doctor-patient relationship comes up. So, that change in doctor-patient relationship is crucial in quantum healing.
Absolutely. And then another aspect that was lacking in the materialistic model of medicine is the connection mind and body. And if you don't have an understanding, how works mind and body, you can't, because you're saying, when you come from the materialistic point of view, the brain and mind is like one, and it's like again a mechanical model. And when we understand that most, I don't, maybe 75% of disease has a connection mind and body. If it's not 90%, some have been said even 100%. So how can we really treat cause of problem if we don't have an understanding of the mind-body connection? And I think it's another major contribution from quantum medicine.
Yes, because the role of meaning is undoubtedly a tremendous role, as Larry Dossey has written several books on it and others is showing. So if you think that brain is the only causal factor here, then you are throwing away the meaning aspect of disease entirely. But we know that giving wrong meaning to a feeling makes us sick, and giving right meaning to a feeling makes us well again. So these things are now well established by so many different cases of healing that I think it's about time that biology gives up its prejudice of purely material basis for biology. I think this course establishes that very well. I think all the prejudices of doctors, the prejudices that I have mentioned and a few others that I have not mentioned, if they were dropped, the medical sciences and biology itself would get much better.
And another thing I find very, very important, and you spoke about this, is, investigate the subtle energy, the tool to technology to address subtle energy. And earlier in my practice, when I started to be trained in alternative medicine, I recognized that, there was tools that are, like the doctor has in hands, like the lab and the X-rays, but these are addressing more the physicality. But when come to the vital aspect of the human beings, and this is then where I start to explore, Vol electroacupuncture and Vega and Kirlian photography and blood microscopy, but not blood microscopy to see the quantity aspect of the blood, but the qualitative aspect of the blood, the vital aspect of the blood. So, and I realized that, as was evolving in this journey, that, there was two types of doctor in me. One is the medical doctor. If the client walk in, I'm seeking for what is wrong. I try to find the wrong report of lab, or what's wrong with the X-rays or the ECG. And then when more I was training in quantum medicine, then I start to shift, looking at the individual more in terms of potentiality, and looking in terms of terrain, bioterrain, and vital terrain, and mental terrain, and what has to be done to bring this individual back in balance. And this is when you have started to speak about, the meaning and the feelings and the emotion, how to, in some way understand what's going on, but with different tool. And then you start to speak about the body electric. And so in some way we have tools that can assess this subtle energy. Will you say that they are indirect quantum measurement, even if you spoke about the body electric? Is it a direct measurement of quantum locality, or will you say it's a quantum?
It directly measures the, when we actually, of course, the human observer is crucial here. But the measurement does take place. If we measure the bioelectric, that does measure the vital, because the vital is correlated with the bioelectric as it is correlated with the biochemical.
So can we say it's a direct measurement of what is non-local? Or
yeah, but of course it has to be effective.
It's kind of an indirect measurement.
It has to be, well, no, it can be done, no? With Kirlian photography, we can directly measure the bioelectric body at a chakra, although people don't do it. They take the shortcut of measuring only the bioelectric body at the index finger. But I think that's a bad procedure. It has to be replaced by the procedure where you measure directly, let's say, the navel chakra and the heart chakra. So by the measurement, you establish the tangled hierarchy. So now the mystics are just giving a hint that they had this self, but the actualization of it requires measurement. Now, is that measurement done when we are loving, um, or is that measurement done when also an external observer measures with Gaussian photography the energies at the heart and the navel? This is a very good question. Of course, if we have a self that mystics report that they have, then measurement is done every time the observer himself or herself looks at the heart and the navel.
By the way, I work with Korean photography in Canada for 10 years. I've done thousands of them. So this is fascinating. And so I detect that to be able to assess this subtle energy, some tools were in some way I wouldn't say more important, but crucial. Brain mapping is certainly one of them. Heart variability, Kirlian photography, or what we call today the GDV.
Yeah, especially the body mapping of the Kirlian photography. We should have the entire chakra maps with Kirlian photography.
Yeah, but actually what we measure is the imprint of fingers, hands, and toe, which where the meridian ends. And then you do from there you do some correlation of what
we do correlation with history of many
and some have extent from this imprint the chakra, but these are algorithms. So it's
I think those things are cheaper, of course, and more impressive in a way, but also a little bit frustrating, because we should never think that a few data can replace many data. At least it's a little dubious in my mind. I think we should have more complete mapping, and that way we would know directly what is going on at a chakra. Are there really this self being activated as we transform? These things will be the future research subjects of our students.
We still have to do a lot of research there. And then another contribution is, and I think we spoke about it a few times, is to understand the process of creativity that you explained. That is totally inexistent. And when you start to teach this to healers and doctors, you open a door of multiple possibilities. Like the client is not anymore caught, in a deterministic issue, but here you have maybe other possibility that may happen.
Especially you have to recognize that we have so very little to go with in the area of vital creativity, which is crucial in the medical field. So I think that our work is cut out for us. I mean, we just barely establishing some of the quantitative procedures, but we have hardly begun to do research on vital creativity. We still go by a lot of folklore, Kundalini research and all this stuff, but it's really not research. They are really folk tales to some large extent, because we have never really researched the Kundalini master and the vital energy distribution mapping of what that master's body reveals. This kind of research would give us a hint. We have now established that if we have a brain, then we can get some measure of the mind through the MRI photographs. That too now should be taken to the future stage of getting these more spiritual people, transformed people, and see how their mind maps are different from ordinary, unclean.
Dr. Despanda does interesting research on that. He do weekend seminar where he may have in a room 800 people, and then at the same time he's running his seminar and he's doing this meditation, collective meditation. Then he brain map individual that momentarily go in this kind of a phase of extra consciousness.
He actually takes the MRI photographs of people?
Not MRI, but the brain mapping. And then,
You mean what? brain mapping with?
Of human brain.
Yeah, with what? With what's the instrument that?
QEEG.
Ah.
And then you can see you have, when the people get in this phase, and is it Kundalini awakening? This is another word, I don't know if we can explain that, but they get in the mode of a extrasensorial phase, or and then you can see a high coherence on the brain, gamma wave, and it's pretty interesting. So there is a lot of research to do, and then I think quantum medicine has opened the door to this. And the same way I can see this in the community of my student. The way they ask their research, it's come from different field, and of course the student doesn't have the resource of pharmaceutical company, or they are not granted, so they work with small group. But at least, they point in different direction, how these alternative medicine work and how they can affect different bodies, the physical or the mental. And some has worked with the QEEG too, and Kirlian photography, and other device, folding electroacupuncture, and also some in their research will correlate blood chemistry with some energetic device, and it's pretty interesting where this will go, or is going now. Another aspect, we're speaking about the community, create a community, and of course it's a challenge. But I have a lot of testimony from my student now, and I was a little bit surprised how this evolved along the years, because at the beginning you start a school and you don't know how far this will go, and years after years I was seeing these people coming back, graduating and giving testimony. One phenomenon is, if I look 30, 40 years ago, in my journey, I felt quite alone. If you look, trying to find the doctors that were aligned with this. And today, what's happening, you have here a little group here, an individual there, and you look at the whole world. If you put all these people together, then they are like a small tribe. And before you didn't have this. This correlation, they were more isolating. So it's like, Quantum University in some way has gathered a group of people or individual aligned with this same kind of thinking.
Yeah, to that, there certainly is an awareness in people of these things. In that sense, we have, certainly I find the same with quantum activism. But to take that to this simultaneous transformation, that's the challenge.
Yeah, but the other thing I want to add here is that, because the commitment is not superficial, they sign up for 3 years and 4 years studies.
Good beginning.
So in a certain way, they are exposed to information and knowledge. And because we invite them also to do some kind of meditation, so they have this vertical experience, it solidifies also, their confidence.
Yeah, no, that is the hope, of course.
This as community has been created. At the beginning they were small, and then they start to gather together, and the fact that through internet we could connect and deliver the information, because this is another challenge to the university, the way education costs and how the information is delivered. We are seeing this transformation in the society. A few years ago, even major universities were resisting to do online education. Now they don't have the choice.
They don't have the choice.
And it doesn't mean the physical university will disappear, but it will be more kind of a hybrid system where you have
some proximity, some internet, yes.
And then another time where they can be at distance and learning and digging their connection. So, maybe I am an enthusiast.
No, this aspect of your enthusiasm is totally correct.
I witnessed along this last 15 years, starting from a small group of a dozen people to a group of now as 9,000 people, so which is
Yeah.
still a drop in the basket, but you know, it's kind
Yeah.
of a
No,
phenomenon.
it's a considerable amount. It's a considerable amount, and absolutely should be given the basis of a lot of enthusiasm. And I agree with you in that respect. It's just that, you know, the task before us is even more huge, because transformation is the next step. I mean, we expect some transformation of our students as they do this study, simply because they're dealing with the subtle, and understanding the subtle requires personal investigation. And the students are doing that. Some of our methods explicitly are forcing them to do that, like meditation and creativity and so forth. But from that to do it simultaneously with that non-local connections, you know, that's the challenge. And how soon can we fulfill the challenge? We have at least satisfied the first part of it. The basic entrance requirement is already there, so that should mean something. So I'm not entirely pessimistic about it.
So we have we can give this challenge people that are listening now. So we are
Yeah,
altogether
and also, you know, we are a scientific organization. We should not be wide-eyed, bushy-tailed New Ages. You know, that is one thing only that keeps us from doing it. The less we do of that popular, enthusiastic part, the better we are. We have to be realist, at once optimist, and that's the challenge. And I think we are doing it right.
Good. So thank you, Dr. Goswami, for this enlightening course and for your contribution to quantum medicine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Find out more and enroll in a degree program today at quantumuniversity.com.